The Corsair tumbles nose over tail at 8,000 feet above the French countryside. Its inverted spin signature is unmistakable, one full rotation every 1.5 seconds. The right wing stalls first, snapping the aircraft into the death spiral every Navy pilot fears. German radio chatter crackles with confirmation. He's spinning out, that's a kill, break off and find another. Two FW-190s peel away, already hunting for new targets. They do not see the American pilot's hands moving with surgical precision on the controls. They do not see him count to 7. They do not see the spin stop exactly where he planned it, 2,000 feet lower, with the nose now pointed at their tails. What happens in the next 4 seconds will be studied for decades. France, autumn 1944. The sky over occupied Europe belongs to whoever controls altitude. German fighters climb high, wait, then dive with the sun behind them. The FW-190 is a brutal machine, fast in the dive, heavily armed, flown by pilots who have survived 3 years of war. They know every advantage. They exploit every mistake. American doctrine is clear: maintain energy, never give up speed, never turn with them, never lose altitude. Above all, never spin. A spin in combat is death. The aircraft rotates uncontrollably. The nose drops toward vertical. Airspeed bleeds away. G-forces pin the pilot against his seat. Recovery takes altitude, time, and perfect control inputs. Most pilots never recover. They auger into the ground or get shot apart while helpless. Training emphasizes spin avoidance above almost everything else. Instructors drill it into every cadet. If you feel the buffet, if you feel the wing drop, push forward immediately. Do not hesitate. Do not experiment. A spin will kill you faster than any enemy. The statistics support this. Of pilots who enter unintentional spins during combat, fewer than 30% recover. Of those who recover, most are damaged by enemy fire during the vulnerable descent. The math is brutal and clear. Spinning equals dying. The F4U Corsair makes the equation worse. Its massive Pratt & Whitney R2800 engine produces 2,000 horsepower. The torque is violent. The aircraft weighs over 14,000 pounds fully loaded. Its long nose blocks forward visibility. Its stall characteristics are abrupt and asymmetric. The left wing drops without warning. The right wing follows a half-second later. In that window, the aircraft can snap into a spin faster than human reaction time. Navy training squadrons call it the Ensign Eliminator. More pilots die learning to fly the Corsair than in combat. The spin is the worst of its many vices. Doctrine is absolute. Avoid spins at all costs. If you enter one by accident, recover immediately using textbook inputs. Never experiment. Never deviate. Never assume you understand the aircraft better than the engineers who designed it. Into this rigid framework steps a Minnesota farm boy who believes math can beat fear. He is not supposed to be here. He is too quiet, too cautious, too analytical for fighter pilots. But he has spent 6 months doing something forbidden. He has been practicing spins on purpose. Leland Tasker was born in 1921 in Worthington, Minnesota. His father ran a dairy farm. His mother taught at the county school. The house smelled of wood smoke and kerosene. Dinner conversations revolved around weather patterns, crop yields, and machinery repair. Leland learned early that guessing cost money. Precision saved it. He fixed tractors at 12, rebuilt a truck engine at 14, and spent winter evenings reading technical manuals by lamplight. His teachers described him as methodical. His classmates described him as odd. He graduated high school in 1939, enrolled at Gustavus Adolphus College in St. Peter, studied physics because it explained how things moved. He was not brilliant. He was thorough. He took notes in cramped handwriting. He double-checked calculations. He asked questions that annoyed professors because they exposed assumptions. No one else questioned. When Pearl Harbor happened, he tried to enlist as a Navy pilot. The recruiter rejected him. Insufficient aggression during the psychological evaluation. Leland did not argue. He returned 3 months later with a private pilot's license earned on borrowed money. He reapplied. This time, they accepted him, barely. Flight training at Pensacola separated the bold from the cautious. Leland was neither. He was systematic. While other cadets practiced aerobatics and mock dogfights, he studied aircraft performance envelopes. He graphed stall speeds at different weights. He calculated turn rates at varying altitudes. Instructors found his approach unusual but effective. He never broke anything. He never bent regulations. He graduated middle of his class in 1943, assigned to F4U Corsairs, despite requesting something smaller and easier. The Corsair terrified him. Its engine roared like a freight train. Its torque twisted the airframe during takeoff. Its stall came without. Warning! A sudden wing drop that sent young pilots cartwheeling into the ground. Leland survived carrier qualification by treating every landing like an engineering problem. Approach speed, descent rate, hook position, throttle response. He wrote the numbers on his knee board. He followed them exactly. He trapped on his first attempt. Others took 8 or 10 tries. Some never made it. Assigned to VF-17, the Jolly Rogers, in early 1944, the squadron had a reputation, aggressive, experienced, results-driven. Leland did not fit. He did not drink heavily. He did not tell war stories. After missions, he disappeared to his quarters and filled notebooks with flight data. His squadron mates called him the professor. Some called him the librarian. A few called him gutless behind his back because he asked too many questions during briefings and flew too conservatively during combat. His first 6 missions were uneventful. He maintained formation. He followed doctrine. He fired at targets beyond effective range. He never closed to knife-fighting distance. His flight leader wrote in an evaluation that Tasker was competent but lacked the killer instinct required for fighter work. Leland read the evaluation without emotion. He knew what he was doing. He was learning the aircraft, not the war. The war could wait. The F4U Corsair entered service in 1942 with a kill ratio that should have made it legendary. Instead, it earned a darker reputation. It killed its own pilots faster than the enemy could. The statistics were suppressed but widely known. In the first 18 months of operation, the Corsair had a 25% attrition rate during training. Not from combat, from accidents. Stall spin crashes on approach, landing gear collapses, ground loops that tore aircraft apart, engine failures on takeoff. The Navy briefly considered canceling the entire program. Only the aircraft's performance in combat by experienced pilots kept it alive. When flown correctly, the Corsair dominated. Its speed exceeded 400 mph in level flight. Its range allowed deep strikes into enemy territory. Its 6 Browning M2 machine guns could saw a 0 in half. But flown incorrectly, even slightly, it became a coffin. The margin for error was non-existent. The primary killer was the stall spin characteristic. The Corsair's wing design created asymmetric airflow at low speeds. The left wing would stall first, dropping abruptly. Pilots instinctively tried to level the wings with aileron. This worsened the problem. The aircraft would snap into an inverted spin, nose pitching down, rotation accelerating. Recovery required precise opposite rudder, neutral ailerons, and forward stick pressure. The sequence had to be executed in under 3 seconds. Hesitation meant the spin tightened into a flat spin, unrecoverable. The aircraft would impact the ground still rotating. Investigators found pilots frozen on the controls, their final moments spent watching the Earth spin closer. Training emphasized one rule above all: never approach a stall, never let the airspeed drop below 120 mph in the pattern, never experiment with slow flight. The stall was forbidden territory. Leland read every accident report he could access. He studied the wreckage photos. He traced the control positions. He noticed patterns. Most spins occurred during distracted flight. Pilots looking over their shoulder, Pilots fixated on instruments. Pilots reacting instead of anticipating. But a few reports described deliberate spin entries during test flights. Those pilots recovered successfully. They described the spin as violent, but controllable, if initiated from specific conditions. Speed, configuration, and control inputs all mattered. Get them right, and the spin was predictable. Leland began wondering if the spin could be weaponized, not as an accident, but as a maneuver. The idea violated everything he had been taught. Doctrine said the spin was death, but doctrine assumed you wanted to recover immediately. What if you did not? What if you let the enemy think you were dead? He started small. At altitude alone, he would slow the Corsair deliberately, feel the buffet, feel the pre-stall shake. Then he would ease back to safe speed. He never crossed the line, not yet. But he was mapping the edge. His crew chief noticed the engine cowling was looser than normal, vibration from extended low-speed flight. He asked if something was wrong. Leland said he was practicing fuel economy. The chief did not believe him, but said nothing. Pilots did strange things before they broke. Summer 1944. The air war over France intensifies as Allied forces push inland from Normandy. Fighter sweeps target German airfields, rail yards, supply columns. The Luftwaffe responds with coordinated interceptions. Their tactics are refined through 4 years of combat. They own the vertical dimension. FW-190s and BF-109s patrol at 25,000 feet, waiting for American formations to appear below. When targets are identified, the Germans dive with throttles wide open. Closure rates exceed 600 km per hour. The bounce comes from the sun, always. By the time American pilots see them, the Germans are already firing. Doctrine says to brake hard and extend away. Use the Corsair's speed advantage. Do not turn, do not climb, do not try to dogfight. The numbers support this. Corsairs that follow procedure survive more often than those that deviate, but survival is not victory. The bomber streams still take losses. Ground attack missions still get shredded by flak and fighters. The exchange rate favors the Luftwaffe. For every German fighter lost, the Allies lose 1.8 aircraft. This is unsustainable. Squadron commanders try adjustments. They fly higher combat air patrols. They position escorts on the sun side. They coordinate with radar stations to vector fighters toward threats. None of it works consistently. The Germans adapt faster than the Allies can counter. They split into multiple attack groups. They feint high and attack low. They exploit every gap in coverage. By August, American fighter losses in the European theater exceed replacement rates by 12%. Pilot quality declines as experienced crews are cycled out and green replacements arrive. Some replacement pilots have fewer than 50 hours in type. They are thrown into combat against veterans who have been fighting since 1940. The outcome is predictable. The problem is not courage, it is physics. German fighters control the energy equation. They start high. They convert altitude to speed. They attack with the initiative. American fighters respond reactively, always defending, always bleeding energy to survive. Doctrine says to extend and reset, but extending means abandoning the bombers. Resetting means giving the Germans time to climb and attack again. The cycle repeats until fuel forces everyone home. German losses are minimal. American losses are constant. Leland flies 14 missions in July. He follows every procedure. He maintains energy. He brakes correctly. He disengages cleanly. He survives every encounter, but he does not fire his guns in anger, not once. Every time he sees Germans, they have the advantage. Every time he maneuvers to engage, they extend away or climb above. He is a spectator to his own war. Other pilots talk about kills, about victories, about turning inside a 109 or catching a 190 in a dive. Leland has none of these stories. He has survival and frustration. At night, he sits on his bunk and sketches engagements from memory. He draws the vertical geometry. He calculates closure rates. He maps energy states. And he keeps returning to one idea, the spin, the forbidden maneuver. The thing that looks like death, but might be survival. If he could make the Germans think he was hit, they would break off. And if he could recover below them, he would have the position. August 1944. Leland begins his experiments in earnest. He volunteers for dawn patrol, the least desirable assignment. Launching at 0500 hours means waking at 0400, suiting up in darkness, and flying alone over the channel while most pilots sleep. The mission is simple. Patrol a sector, watch for German reconnaissance aircraft. Return after 90 minutes. No glory, no combat, just tedious circles at altitude. Leland requests this duty twice a week. His squadron leader approves without question. Better to have the cautious pilot fly boring missions than waste aggressive talent on patrol work. What the squadron leader does not know is that Leland uses these flights to test what doctrine forbids. At 15,000 feet over empty ocean, he slows the Corsair deliberately. He feels the airframe buffet as speed drops through 140 mph. At 125 mph, the stall warning shakes through the stick. He eases back further. At 110 mph, the left wing drops, sharp and sudden. He has perhaps half a second. He can push forward and recover, or he can let it develop. He chooses development. The Corsair snaps inverted. The nose pitches down. The horizon spins once, twice, 3 times. Leland's hands work the controls with clinical precision. Opposite rudder to stop rotation. Neutral ailerons to prevent secondary stall. Forward stick to unload the wing. The spin stops after 4 rotations. He has lost 1/800 feet. His stomach churns from the rotation. Sweat soaks his flight suit despite the cold. But he is alive. He is in control. He repeats the maneuver 6 more times that morning, varying the entry speed, the power setting, the configuration. Each time he records the results in a small notebook strapped to his thigh. Entry speed, recovery altitude, number of rotations, control inputs required. He is building a database. By mid-August, he has practiced the maneuver 40 times. He knows the exact parameters. If he enters the spin at 105 mph with power at idle and flaps up, the Corsair will rotate exactly 3.5 times before natural aerodynamic dampening slows the rotation. He can then recover with textbook inputs in under 2 seconds. Total altitude loss is predictable. Between 600 and 2,000 feet, depending on entry altitude and air density. The maneuver is violent but controllable. It looks like death. It is choreography. His crew chief notices unusual wear on the vertical stabilizer. The rudder hinge shows stress patterns inconsistent with normal flight. He pulls Leland aside after a mission and asks directly what he is doing. Leland considers lying. Instead, he tells the truth. He is practicing spin recovery. The chief stares at him. Spin recovery is not practiced. It is avoided. Leland explains his theory. If he can fake being hit, enemies will break off. The chief listens without interrupting. When Leland finishes, the chief says nothing for a long moment. Then he asks a single question. Can you do it every time? Leland nods. Every time. The chief walks away. 2 days later, he modifies Leland's seat harness, adding extra shoulder strap tension to reduce movement during rotation. He never mentions it. Leland understands the chief is complicit. Now, September 3rd, 1944. Leland flies solo escort for a photo reconnaissance Mosquito over the Pas de Calais. The mission is routine. The Mosquito is fast enough to outrun most threats. Leland's role is precautionary, flying high cover while the British aircraft photographs German coastal defenses. The weather is clear, visibility unlimited, the kind of day where threats are visible from 10 miles away. Leland relaxes into the mission rhythm. He scans the sky in systematic sectors, left, right, high, low, behind. The pattern repeats every 8 seconds. His fuel burn is nominal. The Mosquito completes its run and turns for home. Leland follows, dropping to escort altitude. Then the call comes. 2 contacts high, 4 o'clock. Leland looks right and sees them immediately. FW 190s, perhaps 5,000 feet above him, already rolling into their attack dive. He has perhaps 15 seconds before they reach firing range. Doctrine is automatic. Brake right, extend west, use speed to open distance. He banks. Hard. The Corsair accelerates. But the Germans anticipated this. They cut the angle, diving steeper. Leland checks his airspeed, 320 mph, and climbing. Not enough. The 190s are faster in the dive. They will catch him in 20 seconds. He could call for help, but the nearest friendlies are 40 miles away. He could try a hard reversal, but 2 against 1 means the second German will shoot while he turns with the first. He has no good options, except one. He throttles back, abruptly. The sudden deceleration throws him against his harness. Airspeed drops through 280, 240, 200. The Germans are still diving. They have not adjusted. They expect him to run. At 150 mph, Leland pulls back and kicks left rudder. The Corsair snaps into the spin exactly as practiced. Left wing stalls, nose pitches down, rotation begins. He counts, 1, 2, 3. Through the spinning horizon he glimpses the 190s flashing past above him, too fast to adjust. Committed to the dive, 4. 5. At 6 rotations he neutralizes the controls. Opposite rudder, forward stick. The spin stops. He is at 8,000 feet now, 4,000 feet below where he started. His stomach feels like it is still rotating, but his hands are steady. He looks up. The 2 190s are climbing away to the north, already hunting for other targets. They think he is dead. He saw the spin, the characteristic rotation, the dive toward the earth. They logged it as a kill and moved on. Leland takes 3 deep breaths. His vision clears. His heart rate slows from sprinting to merely running. He reforms on the Mosquito, which never noticed the engagement. The British pilot radios to confirm Leland is still there. Leland acknowledges. His voice is steady, professional. Inside he is shaking. Not from fear, from validation. The theory worked. The spin worked. He survived by doing the thing that should have killed him. He does not report the engagement. No gun camera footage exists. No witnesses. Just him and the Germans who think they won. He lands. Debrief says the mission was uneventful. That night he updates his notebook. 1 combat test, 1 successful deception, 1 recovery. Repeatable. September 8, 1944. Leland sits across from his squadron commander in a canvas-walled office that smells of coffee and aviation fuel. The commander is a career officer, academy graduate, 38 years old with a fighter pilot's confidence and a bureaucrat's caution. He has Leland's after-action report from a mission up 2 days prior. The report is unusually detailed. Leland described entering a spin to evade 2 FW-190s, recovering at lower altitude, and returning safely. The commander reads it twice. Then he looks up. His expression is not anger, it is concern. He asks Leland to explain what he was thinking. Leland explains the physics, energy states, rotation dynamics, recovery parameters. He describes the practice flights, the data collection, the predictable altitude loss. The commander listens without interrupting. When Leland finishes, the what? Commander sets the report down carefully. He tells Leland that what he described is not a tactic. It is reckless endangerment. Spins are forbidden for a reason. They kill pilots. The fact that Leland survived does not validate the maneuver. It validates luck. Leland attempts to argue. He cites the specific parameters, the controlled entries, the repeatable results. The commander raises his hand. He is not interested in theory. He is interested in keeping pilots alive. Doctrine exists because it has been tested across thousands of engagements. Deviating from doctrine gets people killed. Leland is ordered not to attempt the maneuver again. If he does, he will be grounded pending psychological evaluation. The meeting ends. Leland salutes and leaves. He does not believe the commander is wrong. He believes the commander is operating with incomplete information. Doctrine works when both sides follow predictable patterns. But predictability is exactly what allows the Germans to dominate. They know American pilots will extend. They know Americans will not dogfight. They exploit that knowledge. Leland's maneuver breaks the pattern. It introduces uncertainty. That uncertainty is a weapon, but he cannot prove this alone. He needs a witness. He needs someone else to survive using the technique. He chooses his wingman, Ensign Robert Calloway. Calloway is 22, quiet from Oregon. He flies competently but without distinction. He follows Leland in formation and does not ask unnecessary questions. More importantly, he trusts Leland. After a mission, Leland pulls Calloway aside. He explains the spin maneuver in detail. He shows him the notebook. He describes the control inputs. Calloway listens with wide eyes. He asks if this is authorized. Leland says no. Calloway asks if it works. Leland says yes. Calloway thinks for a long moment. Then he asks Leland to teach him. They practice using hand signals during flights. Leland cannot explain verbally over the radio without being overheard. Instead, he developed a sequence. Tap the canopy twice. Pull throttle back. Count to 3. Initiate spin. Calloway watches Leland demonstrate during a training flight. He sees the entry, the rotation, the recovery. That night, on a dawn patrol, Calloway tries it himself. He enters at 110 mph. The Corsair snaps left. He counts. At 4 rotations, he recovers. He loses 1,900 feet. When they land, Calloway is pale but grinning. He tells Leland it felt like dying. Leland tells him that is the point. Now, there are 2 pilots who know. 2 pilots who can make the Germans doubt. November 11, 1944. VF-17 is tasked with escort duty for a bomber strike against U-boat pens at St. Nazaire. The target is heavily defended. German fighters stage from nearby airfields specifically to intercept these raids. Intelligence estimates 30 to 40 enemy aircraft in the area. American planners assign 8 Corsairs as close escort and 12 P-47 Thunderbolts as high cover. The mission brief is standard. Protect the bombers. Engage only if directly threatened. Do not pursue. Leland and Calloway are assigned as a 2-plane element on the southern flank. Their job is to cover the most vulnerable approach angle. Takeoff is at 0800 hours. The formation assembles over the channel and turns east. The bombers are B-24 Liberators, heavy and slow. The Corsairs weave above them, maintaining position. At 50 miles from target, the first radar warning comes. Multiple bogies climbing from the east. The P-47s intercept high. Radio chatter erupts. Calls of break left, break right, splash 1. The high cover is engaged. The close escorts continue. At 20 miles, the second wave appears. 6 FW-190s, lower than expected, coming from the south directly at Leland and Calloway. The Germans are fast. They have altitude advantage. They are in perfect position. Leland calls the threat. Calloway acknowledges. The 190s split into 2 groups of 3. Classic tactics. One group will attack head-on to scatter the escorts. The second will swing behind to target the bombers. Leland and Calloway are outnumbered 3-1. Doctrine says to call for help and extend. But the P-47s are committed elsewhere. No help is coming. The first 3 190s close head-on. Leland and Calloway hold their course. The Germans open fire at 800 yards. Tracers arc through the sky. Leland breaks left. Calloway breaks right. The 190s flash past and reverse. Now they are behind, turning to pursue. This is the killing position. The Germans accelerate. Leland checks his speed. 280 mph, too fast for the maneuver. He throttles back. Airspeed drops, 240-100. The lead 190 closes to 400 yards. Leland can see the muzzle flashes. He waits. 150 miles per hour now. He pulls back and kicks rudder. The Corsair snaps into the spin. 1 rotation, 2, 3. Through the spinning world, he glimpses the 190 overshooting, the pilot pulling up hard to avoid collision. 4 rotations. Leland recovers. He is 20,500 feet lower. He looks up. The 190 is climbing away, already hunting elsewhere. On the radio, German voices, excited. Leland does not speak German, but he recognizes the tone. Confirmation. A kill. They think he is dead. Calloway executes the same maneuver 3 seconds later. His spin is tighter. 5 rotations. He recovers 2,800 feet below his entry point. The second 190 overshoots him as well. Now 2 Corsairs that should be dead are alive and repositioning. The third 190, still high, sees both aircraft recover. Confusion. The German formation breaks apart. Cohesion is lost. Leland and Calloway climb back toward the bombers. The remaining 3 190s from the second group see them and hesitate. Targets that were confirmed kills are now maneuvering. The psychological impact is immediate. The Germans break off, unwilling to commit. The bombers reach the target unmolested. Leland and Calloway escort them home. When they land, the debrief is tense. The mission commander wants to know why they deviated from formation. Leland explains they were engaged and responded. Gun camera footage is reviewed. It shows the spins, the recoveries, the German disengagement. The room is silent. The footage is undeniable. 2 pilots survived impossible attacks using a maneuver that doctrine forbids. The gun camera footage from St. Nazaire reaches 8th Air Force intelligence within 48 hours. Analysts watch it repeatedly. Frame by frame, they study the spin entries, the German overshoots, the recoveries. Cross-referenced with radio intercepts, the picture becomes clear. German pilots reported 2 kills. Both targets were observed spinning. Both were logged as confirmed, yet both aircraft returned home undamaged. The discrepancy triggers deeper investigation. Intelligence officers interview Leland and Calloway separately. They describe the maneuver in technical detail. The specific entry parameters, the control inputs, the altitude loss, the psychological effect on enemy pilots. The interviews are forwarded to the Naval Air Training Command. Test pilots are assigned to evaluate feasibility. At Patuxent River, Maryland, an experimental squadron attempts to replicate the maneuver under controlled conditions. Results are mixed. Experienced pilots can execute the spin and recover consistently. Less experienced pilots enter spins they cannot control. 2 aircraft are lost during testing. The conclusion is cautious. The maneuver works, but requires exceptional skill and judgment. It cannot be taught to average pilots. It will not become standard doctrine. However, it can be incorporated into advanced fighter tactics courses as a desperation option for experienced aviators only. By December 1944, word spreads through the fighter community. Not through official channels, through pilots talking in ready rooms, over drinks, in letters home. The story grows with each retelling. The Corsair pilot who faked his own death, the German fighters who stopped pressing attacks because targets might be traps. Some details are exaggerated, some are accurate. All contribute to a shift in mindset. American pilots begin to see the spin not as certain death, but as a calculated risk. A few attempt it in combat. Some succeed, others do not. One pilot spins into the English Channel and is never recovered. Another executes a perfect entry, but takes fire during the vulnerable descent. But enough pilots survive impossible engagements that the tactical calculus changes. German after-action reports begin referencing American fighters using unusual evasive maneuvers. Luftwaffe training briefs are updated to warn pilots not to assume a spinning aircraft is a kill until impact is confirmed. The hesitation costs seconds. In combat, seconds determine outcomes. Statistical analysis conducted in early 1945 shows a measurable decrease in Corsair losses during the final 6 months of the war. The reduction is modest, approximately 4%. But across hundreds of missions and thousands of sorties, 4% represents dozens of pilots who came home. Intelligence officers attribute the improvement to multiple factors: better training, improved tactics, declining Luftwaffe pilot quality, fuel shortages, limiting German operations. But buried in the analysis is a footnote, a reference to unconventional defensive maneuvers employed by select pilots in critical situations. The spin fake is never named officially. It exists in the margins of doctrine, a tool for those who understand it, a legend for everyone else. Leland Tasker survives the war with 7 confirmed aerial victories. All occur after November 1944. All result from reversals initiated during defensive engagements. He never shoots down an aircraft in offensive pursuit. His kills come from patience and positioning, from making enemies think he is dead, then exploiting their mistake. He receives the Distinguished Flying Cross in March 1945. The citation mentions exceptional airmanship and innovative tactics under fire. It does not mention the spin. After VE Day, Leland returns to the United States. He is 23 years old. He has flown 89 combat missions. He separates from the Navy and enrolls at MIT using the GI Bill. He studies aeronautical engineering, focusing on aircraft stability and control. His thesis examines spin dynamics in high-performance fighters. The research draws heavily from his wartime notebooks. He graduates in 1948 and joins Boeing as a flight test engineer. He spends 30 years designing spin recovery systems for commercial and military aircraft. His patents save lives in ways never publicly attributed. He marries in 1950. He raises 3 children in Seattle. He coaches Little League. He attends church. He volunteers at the local library. His neighbors know he flew in the war, but little else. He does not talk about combat. When asked at veterans gatherings, he deflects politely. His war was technical work, he says, nothing dramatic. In 1983, a military aviation historian researching Corsair tactics contacts him. They speak for 2 hours. Leland describes the spin maneuver in detail. The historian asks why it was never officially adopted. Leland explains that most pilots could not execute it safely. The maneuver required understanding the aircraft at an intuitive level. It required trust in mathematics over instinct. Most pilots did not have that. The interview is published in a small journal. Few read it. Leland dies in 1989 at 68 from heart failure. His funeral is attended by family, co-workers, and 3 former squadron mates. One of them is Calloway, now a retired airline captain. He speaks briefly. He tells the small gathering that Leland taught him to think past fear, that courage without calculation is just noise, that the best pilots are not the bravest, but the ones who understand what their aircraft can do and trust it completely. Modern fighter doctrine on post-stall maneuvering traces its lineage to research conducted in the 1970s and 1980s. Aircraft like the F-16 and F-18 incorporate flight control, systems that allow controlled departures from stable flight. Pilots train extensively in spin recovery and unusual attitude recognition. The techniques are sophisticated and computer-assisted, but the underlying principle remains unchanged. Sometimes survival requires embracing what seems like falling. The spin fake becomes legend in naval aviation circles. Instructors reference it when teaching energy management. The story is simplified, stripped of technical detail, reduced to myth. A pilot who turned falling into fighting, who weaponized what everyone feared, whose name most cannot remember, but whose idea endures.